Dear student and audience, warm welcome to Dr. Zia Ahmed YouTube channel. Today I'm going to record a very short video in order to highlight the main aspects of the novel of Mumtaz Shahnawaz that is titled as The Heart Divided. My purpose is to indicate to something for which the writer was specific, and that is about the feminist politics. Most of the time, it has been seen that the woman's body becomes a very big battleground because of the things which are attached to her in a specific culture. In Indian Muslim culture, we had many things about women that they possibly didn't take part in many of the battles going outside of the home. They didn't take part in the discussions, political discourses, or many other things. But this novel of Mumtaz Shahnawaz, opposite to the novel of Ahmed Ali, Twilight in Delhi, highlights women taking part in the struggle against British government and also attempting to discard many of the age-old established traditions, including parda and burqa. So that is why the theme of politics of feminism is quite dominant in Shahnawaz's novel, The Heart Divided. But let us first of all see what this novel contains for us. Number one thing about this novel is that it is written in 1930s about the situation in 1930s, let's say, but was published in 1950s. So it highlights the situation, the timing when the Pakistan movement was about to start. But this novel less represents Pakistan movement. It more represents the struggle, united struggle of the Indian Muslim and Hindus against the British dominance and the change or acculturization which was taking place because of all this. So for this purpose, we need to understand what this novel is about. It's maybe about the education of women, about the training and the participation of women in the political process. So it more represents socio-political change that was coming up in the women community, or Indian Muslim women community, let's say. Although men were also changing from their outside garments, from their styles of life, and from their change, whatever they were experiencing. Muslim women were less likely to be affected because of that, but in the elite families, lots of Muslim women who had come in touch with the foreign culture, whose fathers and brothers were living outside and they had come back and brought the aspects of foreign culture in it, that is influencing them as well. So a change is coming into that. And that is why the very opening paragraph of the novel contains a question from the side of the woman protagonist, Zohra, that when she started to change, and she gives the date as well that she started to change in 1930s. So this is the type of novel that we are coming across for this purpose. Let us explore deep into the novel. The novel goes to highlight some of the aspects of this Indo-Pak subcontinent. For example, colonialism and the change of culture. Definitely, this was colonialism because of which the culture of Indian Muslims and Hindus started to undergo a change. And this was the timing between World War One and World War Two, when the politics of independence has started to take place. That people wanted to struggle in order to get independence from the British people who were the colonizers of Indian territory at that time. In this case, Muslim elite families were far ahead of the middle class families because they were not only the part of the government sometime, but also holding big businesses, and they were getting education from outside England. England and London, they were getting education, and their families were being influenced by this type of culture of the British people. So Hindus and the Indians were putting their struggle jointly in order to remove this whole situation. And after that, the novel goes to highlight the participation of women. And in this regard, this novel becomes a post-colonial text as well, because resistance was being offered not only to the British dominant, but also to the established norms under the influence of the British culture. The marriage aspect is quite dominant in whole of the story, as is the case with Ahmed Ali's novel Twilight in Delhi. But in Twilight in Delhi, marriages do take place, but here the marriages do not take place. And if one takes place, it breaks out. So the question of marriage, right of observing parda, right of choice of women for their husbands and their marriages, that is also talked about in a lot of ways in this novel. So that is why this novel is important with respect to the feminist politics. Let us see how colonialism was affecting at that age. This novel is written in Lahore. It's the landscape of Lahore about which the novel is going to be. The timing is that of 1940s, and definitely the British were present at that time. And one can see how local people were participating into it. The British colonialism, how some of the local families had become the part of the British government, how they were sharing power with them, or at least they were enjoying the luxurious businesses because of which they were earning a lot of wealth and were becoming richer as well. The world wars were taking place around, and British were therefore feeling forced to quit many of the territories which they had colonized in the 19th and 20th century. But in case of India, they wanted to retain it at every cost because it was the most favorite colonized place of the colonial people. So that is why many of the reforms were there. And one of the important reform was that higher education was open to the people of India. Not only higher education was being provided to the men and women, young men and women, especially in India, but also they were given a chance that they should migrate to London to procure their degrees from there. So that is why we have number of people who became bar at laws from England, and that's why education was coming. So when education comes, definitely awareness also comes. People become aware of their rights and their duties also, and they therefore started to feel that they're having some rights, and especially the right of speech and right of independence, but they were not being given. That is why the resistance had also started. In this connection, this would be very important to see how culture was coming up, how people were coming away from their culture because of hegemonic controls of the British people, of the colonizer. According to Gramsci, the culture situation begins to occur and it becomes hegemonic control because some people from the colonized side automatically feel that they should adopt the culture of the colonizer because they start thinking that the culture of colonizer is superior as compared to their own culture. So that is why the same thing had started to happen in India. Let us see on these points it goes to happen. For example, British revolutionized the education system, and they started to, come up with a system which was designed by them in order to propagate their rule, in order to propagate their, agenda, or in order to propagate their superiority, or in order to propagate that they were the best people in the world. So that is why local people started to get education, and many of the people thought London to be the favorite place from where they can get education. Young girls, on the other hand, when they had got education, in this novel we see Zuhra and Mohni and Suraya are the people who are definitely the people who wanted to get education, and they were getting education, and because of that education they were coming up with their own agenda of resistance on two levels. Number one, the British occupation. Number two, the age-old traditions and customs which were stopping their way, which were trying to put them into prison-like situation. The four walls of the home, the chadar, the parda, all these things they wanted to remove and become a part of the institutions, political institutions rather. They wanted to put the struggle, they wanted to take part in politics, they wanted to take part in speech making. So this was the change which were coming up, and as a result there was a united kind of struggle from the part of the people of India. And Parda institution, as the writer has tried to discuss in the very first chapter, and throughout this thing is discussed, as the girls, the women are being preferred, are shown at a higher level of independence, who are not observing Parda, and young girls who are getting education, they are very much ready to discard Parda. So in this way, one can feel very easily that the cultural change was coming up in India, and that cultural change was starting from the body of the woman, that how much it should be covered, how much it should not be covered, whether she should come outside of the four walls or she should stay inside that, whether she should be the part of the struggle. Mainly it was found that she was the part of the struggle and she wanted to do so. So that is why politics of feminism is quite dominant in this novel as well. Let's proceed further and see what the Muslim elites were doing and which Muslim elites have been talked about in this novel. Nizamuddin Sheikh is the head of the family of the Sheikhs, where these characters like Habib, Zuhra, Sura, and are living. Suraya is one of their friends. She also belongs to a very elite family of India, and she is a modern woman. She is, from according to any standards, very much independent, very much, the woman who has her will and wish and can talk to the people very elegantly. And that is one of the models that possibly represents the modernness brought because of the British rule in India and the education provided by them. Fakhruddin, however, is a patriarch. He is the grandfather, and that is why he's holding the traditions of his family, of his history, and tries to stop. But that desktop is not working. As far as Zohra is concerned, she is very young girl, very active, very much intelligent, very highly qualified, and she therefore, with permission of her father and her brother Habib, she goes to such kind of activities which the women were not expected to go. For example, taking part in debates, taking part in protests, taking part in speech making competitions, and taking part in teaching everywhere she was going. Habib and Nizamuddin are the people who are westernized, who are educated in West, so that is why they are proving a pro-feminist type of persons in this novel. Habib therefore has no objection to his sisters working like this. He supports her. So in that way, Zuhra is the model of the change which the Muslim women were undergoing with the passage of time. But definitely this was happening not at the higher level, but at the lower level. And with this comes, well, definitely this resistance at the home level begins because of the permission of the males, and the resistance outside also begins. Many other characters join with them, many class fellows, many people who are with them, they also join. And by joining that, resistance starts to come. This resistance was not only on the social level, as I already pointed out, but also it was at the level of the politics against the British people. So let us see what are the main points of this resistance. First of all, you see, resistance was put with the united front against the British dominance, and independence was sought from them. The leaders, the dedicated leaders like Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the Jawaharlal Nehru and then Liaquat Ali Khan type leader had come forward. They had established the political organizations, political parties like Muslim League and Congress, and they were putting up a very strong struggle in order to win independence from the British people. But then Muslims were also realizing that they could not stay long in the united India, so that is why they needed a separate country, Pakistan. So that's why some of the voices were being raised that the separate country, Pakistan, should be established. So in this way, this novel is the novel of politics of resistance, because this resistance is not on the part of feminism, not only, but also it is the resistance on the part of the political system of that time, and the struggle for independence, and the struggle also for the achievement of Pakistan. So that's why Pakistan movement was also going on alongside that. So this is the type of novel that one comes across. And as far as this academic value is concerned, its characterization is concerned, its themes and its influences are concerned, its modeling is concerned, we can discuss this thing with respect to these points as well. For example, there are three characters. Zuhra is a young woman. She is the protagonist of the story. She is getting education in the college. Later on, she becomes a lecturer. And for her, it's a very secondary matter that she should go for marriage. Rather, she tries to avoid it, and she wants to pursue her career. And at certain time, when she feels it's good that she should marry, she wants to marry. Suraya is the another woman who is the protagonist, who the second protagonist, let's say, who is the embodiment of modernness, totally without parda, highly qualified and bold stance she is posing all the time. Mohni, the Hindu girl, but she is also physically maybe very weak, but mentally she's very strong. She is ill, but she is all the time posing a stiff resistance against the British dominance, and she is the one who is making a big awakening. So in that way, these are the women who are putting up struggle against the dominance of the society or patriarchal values, but also the dominance of the British people. So women's body has been used in this novel to play the politics of not only resistance, but also that of feminism. And so in this way, one can feel the changes which were coming in the society. That first of all, in the same age, at the middle class and lower level, the system of the social system, rather we should say, remained the same. That was not that much influenced as it was influenced at the upper level. At the upper level, women were undergoing a change with respect to the family norms, and that is why Parda system was being challenged, and many people had started to come outside Parda. One can feel about the participants of Pakistan movement in the 1940s, that how many people, for example, were there who were coming without parda outside, and they were, participating in the struggle alongside the men also. So that is why these characters become very important. A character of Zohra, Suraya, Mohni, etc. And in that way, the politics of feminism is available in this novel. This is what I wanted to highlight today. And so therefore one can end the whole story with respect to the points. Like, first of all, it is about the politics, it's about the history of the Muslim people, history of the Pakistani people also. It is about the Indian freedom. It is about the change which the youthful people were experiencing. There are some love stories in this novel also, but these are most of the time unsuccessful love stories. There are two major strains. That one is the patriarchal strain that is trying to withhold with the old traditions, and other is the pro-feminist men who are standing side by side their women, and women are standing side by side them in order to liberate themselves from whatever the dominance is going to be. So this is the whole point that we can discuss about this novel. While keeping these points, one can enter into the story and read the textual material in order to understand how these things were going on, how these two dominant themes were working. So thank you very much for watching. Here this video stops. Hopefully see you in some next video. So if you hit the subscribe button and like button, I will be obliged. And surely if you have a question or a comment, you can post on YouTube as well. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you in some next video.